Connecting, connecting, connecting. Maybe that it works.
There we are. We are live. Hey, we're back, everybody. Welcome to the Trump Tourney Tracker. Here's Olga Lautman. How are you, Olga?
I am exhausted and annoyed, but
It's good to be back. It's good to see you. It's been a few days, so we're glad we could make it back after a little bit of a break. Boy, there's a lot of news going on as we start the week. I thought we'd be talking about Epstein again today, but we have been successfully moved over to two other topics. One is this DC takeover by the federal government, really. It's a remarkable takeover. I've never seen anything like it. A president who now decide, what happens in DC on a local level by authorizing the takeover of the local police there by his Department of Justice. Unbelievable for this is not democracy as we know it.
no. And this is what I've been warning about. I mean, Trump is turning the U.S. into a police state, and he keeps testing it, whether it be with immigrants, now with D.C., and this will expand. I mean, this is not just for DC. If people think that, it's going to be contained to DC, they have news coming, because the whole point is for him to condition people to accept military in the streets, to accept federal agents in the streets, and to basically, uh, take over the country and turn it into a police state. I will make note on DC. DC is usually the place where all protests happen. So this is also another thing he's preparing for, to try to, get ahead of any future protests, by having the logistics in place to quash anything. I mean, frankly, it feels like Russia.
That's a very important point. People are saying this is really a distraction mechanism, and maybe he is trying to distract from the news, but it's also very much a real takeover of the police force there in order to quell any resistance that might emerge. I mean, sure, there's a homelessness problem, there's a crime problem in DC, without a doubt, but not to the extent where this is required. But he is beginning to feel like, his favorability ratings are going down, protests may ramp up, and as he does that, he wants control over how the police react. And even said it in his press conference today when he said, he sees the police wanting to go at these protesters or wanting to go at people, but they've been held back, unable to do what they want to do. He wants to let them go. And I think he used this, do whatever the hell you want, I think is what he said to the protesters or protesters. So really, his true feelings about what's going on have nothing to do with safety and security for civilians and citizens of DC, but really it's about protest and quelling any uprisings.
Yeah, and also, I mean, someone just pointed out, oath matter, oaths matter. That DC crime is at a low. And it is. I mean, nationwide, the crime is at a low. They stood there and took, credit for this. But I have to say, I watched, several minutes of this presser. This looked like a propaganda spectacle, something I would expect out of the Kremlin. Like, this is not what the US used to be. The amount of lies, the amount of propaganda, I mean, is incredible. And these are people at the top positions of all the key agencies. And they stood there and lied. I mean, it looked like something when I watched, Putin's briefers, at the Kremlin. Same propaganda, same lies, same everything.
It's not surprising. Of course, speaking about Putin, Trump stated today that he'll know within 2 minutes, he says, within the first 2 minutes, whether a deal with Putin is possible when they meet in Alaska this week, adding, because that's what I do, I make deals. He's promising Putin, you've got to end this war, while criticizing Zelensky for refusing territorial concessions, saying he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap. Trump plans a call to Zelensky and European leaders only after his Putin talks, noting that it's very respectful that Putin is coming to Alaska rather than requiring travel to Russia. I mean, there's a lot there in that statement. Must make your blood boil.
I mean, beyond. You know what Trump says doesn't make my blood boil as much as how American media covers it. I went on a rant this weekend. If I see one more person use peace plan, there is no peace plan.
Right.
There is no plan. There is nothing. You have Ukraine, a sovereign country, who was invaded by a genocidal terrorist who are illegally occupying territory. I mean, the fact that we are discussing any kinds of plans instead of telling Russia to get the fuck out and to get back over the border is incredible. And this is the failure of all Western media, because I see the same commentary coming from European media and commentary coming here. I mean, the fact that, Russia has managed, after 11 years of war, to shifted over as if there need to be talks, when what should happen is that the West, the United States and Europe, should have armed Ukraine and helped Ukraine push Russia back over the border. And not to mention all the stolen children. That's not in discussion. As far as, his comment on Zelensky got the approval to kill people, of course he got approval to kill people because they're in his cities and towns and streets.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
defending his
Russia,
population.
he did not go in and cross another country's border to kill people. Russia brought their military into Ukraine. And as far as, Trump wanting to swap land or cede land, I have news coming for him. It is unconstitutional, and I've said it a million times. If he wants to rewrite America's Constitution and Americans don't want to rise up against it, that is their prerogative. In Ukraine, no one would allow the rewriting of the Ukrainian constitution that forbids the ceding of land. And if Zelensky, which he wouldn't, ever attempted to cede any land, there would be another revolution. And people would be out in the country until he gets out of office. So
Look, the
the
other thing
fact
is,
that,
sorry. Okay.
mhm.
No, I was just going to
No,
say
I
the
just
other thing.
wanted to.
Yeah. No, well, since we've been together, we're off our rhythm. Okay, you finish, and then I'll jump in.
No, I was just going to say Zelensky doesn't have the power to rewrite the Constitution, to hand any land over to anybody. This is, part of the Constitution, and that's it. So Trump thinking that he does have the power, maybe Putin does because he's a dictator. Zelensky is a elected president who, when the war will finally come to an end, there will be new elections and we will have another president. So I mean, he he doesn't have control like Putin to order, whatever he wants done.
And it's a real, obvious sign that if Zelensky is not coming to these talks, these are not very legitimate talks. I mean, for two other countries to be negotiating the future of Ukraine without the Ukrainian president there is ridiculous, of course, and shouldn't be, considered true of any sort of plan or accord or anything, because it's just really a declaration of their intent, but nothing that really applies to Ukraine unless Ukraine signs off on this. The other thing that's of course remarkable to me is that Putin is back in favor with Trump, or Trump is back in favor. This, as I think I predicted a few weeks ago, this is their little skirmish over the last few weeks seems to be nothing more than just more theater. And the reality of it is he's inviting Vladimir Putin to America, to the United States of America for talks about Ukraine without Zelensky. I mean, the optics are terrible. Of course, the Russians also believe they deserve Ukraine. I mean, deserve Alaska as part of their territory. You can bet that that's one of the points that Putin's going to be making on Friday on American soil in Alaska. He's going to say, well, this is our land, opening up yet another possible territorial front that we don't want to have to deal with. So this is just, bad optics for America. Really looks like Putin's back in favor with Trump. And it's really not good news for Zelensky, although he sort of knew this was all the case all along. I mean, there's nothing really new here for him.
There's nothing new. Europe anticipated it. I mean, Zelensky anticipated it. The thing is that it's interesting because I'm very curious what reminder Putin gave to Witkoff to make Trump spin again. Because
Right.
clearly there was some kind of a reminder handed at that meeting of, bring this message back to your boss if he doesn't want something out. So clearly, I mean, on top of the fact that there was a interesting news story that Putin handed the Order of Lenin to Witkoff to pass to a CIA officer here whose son died in fighting with the Russians in Ukraine. So, I mean, just that intelligence operation in its own. First of all, the Order of Lenin doesn't exist anymore, collapsed with the failed Soviet Union. But that order was handed for outstanding service to the state. And the fact, I don't even know where my blood boils more with this. The fact that Zelensky didn't say, take your fucking order and shove it up your ass.
Yeah.
Because this is really, I mean, this is such a disgrace for America to have the Russian president handing an award to a CIA official, to pass on. I mean, this is a slap into U.S. intelligence services. Or maybe it was meant for Trump for his, outstanding service to the state.
Well, he has done that.
Regardless.
He has done an incredible job for the Russians. Let's move into the rest of the Trump tyranny tracker because it's day 204 in the Trump administration. The Justice Department has escalated its scrutiny of Trump's political opponents, subpoenaing New York Attorney General Letitia James and opening new investigations into her and Senator Adam Schiff over disputed mortgage fraud allegations. Now, leading these cases is Ed Martin, Trump's handpicked special prosecutor who defended January 6 participants and promised retribution. He was also part of the organizing of January the 6th. Unbelievable turn of events here.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Ed Martin is a Kremlin propagandist. He appeared over 200 times on Russian state media. So you have this Kremlin show who, is in Department of Justice, who basically created this fictitious weaponization of agencies unit now going after opponents. And this is exactly what Trump promised. I mean, he said it every single day on the campaign trail that he will arrest his opponents. And this is exactly what they're moving to do.
That's why he called it the Retribution Tour. Trump is also considering appointing E.J. Antoni, a Heritage Foundation economist who has repeatedly accused the Bureau of Labor Statistics of manipulating data to lead that very agency. Antoni is backed by Steve Bannon, who would replace the current commissioner, who was reportedly purged after a weak jobless report. So the current commissioner puts out an accurate report about the joblessness rate. She gets fired, and in comes this guy from the Heritage Foundation, speaking about another Russian front.
I mean, uh, what's going to happen ultimately is that Americans will be hurt from this because the whole world trusts the data that comes out of the U.S. government. Once this data becomes skewed, it will be the same as doing business in lawless Russia, where it's Russian roulette, whether you keep your business, whether the courts, step in and provide, strip you of your assets illegally. And we all know Russia's data is, manipulated. So here, the only thing that will happen is this will hurt the American economy, Americans, because once data becomes manipulated, guess what? The rest of the world is not going to want to invest in the U.S. They're not going to see the U.S. as a safe haven anymore. And that's it.
Speaking of January 6th, as we did there with Ed Martin, the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History has altered its display on Trump's impeachments in removing references to his false statements and foreseeably inciting violence on January the 6th. The word alleged was added to his first impeachment description after the institution pledged to review exhibits for bias following pressure from the Trump administration, rewriting history right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, again, this is another dictator move to rewrite history, to use his power to have, the Smithsonian and other agencies rewrite history. And I mean, again, we are getting into, very dangerous territory because right now it's, them rewriting the history of the insurrection that Trump caused and orchestrated and planned. And then it could be anything. I mean, it could be, Trump decides to invade Canada, and then you'll have, every agency rewriting the history. That's a was U.S. Territory. I mean, once you get into this, again, I hate to say it, but this is what happens in Russia. I can't tell you how many times the history books are rewritten to erase the atrocities or to further an agenda. They just recently rewrote history books on Ukraine, so this is something that, we're really, again, entering Russian territory or
Yeah,
are
they
in
really
Russian
are.
territory.
I was struck by Thomas Friedman, who said the other day, and I'll read this quote out to everybody, that though he's a optimist, for the first time, I believe that if the behavior of this administration is exhibited in just the first 6 months continues and is amplified for its full 4 years, the America you know will be gone, and I don't know how we'll get it back. I mean, those are pretty stark words. It's something you and I have been saying for months here on various shows we've been doing, but you've been talking about this for years.
Yeah, and this is again up to the American people to decide this because, look, I remember someone asked, after Trump won the election, is he going to leave? I said, he will stay as long as you allow him to stay. This is up to the people to decide how much they want to take. And there is more people than these thugs. And when the people have had enough, then they can start rolling this back. So, yes, if he continues like this, then you don't see any pushback, significant pushback, then yes, we're not going to recognize America. But at the same time, I have to say, he's tearing everything apart. And we are seeing so many things that frankly should have never existed in the form that it is. So maybe that's a good thing because if people rise up, eventually we can. Not bring it back to what it used to be, but strengthen it, to make sure that we have a more equitable system. Because someone like Trump, I've said it in 2016 and 15, someone like Trump should have never been allowed to run for office. He wouldn't even get a job sweeping the floors in CIA because of the shady history that he has. And, I hate quote, his direct involvement with the Russian mafia and laundering money through his towers for 40 years. So if he can't get a job sweeping the floors in CIA, why did he get the keys to the White House? This is a system that we do need to fix. So, if people rise up, we need to strengthen our systems and make sure that, we plug all the loopholes and never allow anything like this to happen again.
Yeah, this is like a home invasion. If you've got people in your home and you're invading your home, you would do everything you can to protect your safety of the family and yourself to get them out if you could. It's the same kind of crisis that America is in. There are people actually invading your homes. They're taking your money, they're taking your resources, and they're taking your rights more fundamentally than anything else. And that's terrifying for everybody. Olga, you've got a very good series you're doing now with Julia Roginski about the 2016 attack on democracy by Russia, which is a terrific read, and everyone should be reading it. Tell people about that and why you're doing that.
I can't believe I'm back to 2016 because of these stupid Republicans who, rather commit, treason and be traitors to this country to protect Trump instead of dealing with the fact that Russia attacked the U.S. in 2016. So basically, since Republicans are preparing for prosecutions of Trump's opponents for quote unquote fabricating this intelligence, which is a lie, to hurt Trump and basically saying that Russia did not attack the U.S., which is in essence what they are saying. Um, Julie and I decided to do a series to show how Russia attacked US. It's going to be a very long series today. The third installment came out. And basically we started with the first part with how the Soviet Union carried out their operations to show that these are the same tactics that have been perfected with technology. The second one was starting at 2008 because when I was looking into Russia's attack in 2016, as it was happening in 2015, actually, I was watching it happen on the Russian side. Um, And I looked further into it. The actual preparations for the 2016 election started in 2008. So the second part is covers 2008, and then today's covers the infiltration of the NRA and how Russia, sent spies and recruited members of the NRA, and not only to get to the Republican Party and to create this division and to amplify America's culture wars, but also ultimately to make sure that Trump gets into office. So today, check out the new series installment today.
And where they find it, on Unmasking Russia or on Trump Tyranny Tracker, or on both?
Unmasking Russia.
Unmasking Russia is the blog that Olga writes. So unmaskingrussia.substack.com. Is that right?
I think, or olgalautman.substack.com.
It's out there. You'll find it if you follow Olga on any of these things. On narrative.org, I've got the continuing series of The Greatest Heist, which looks at how Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, believe it or not, committed the biggest crime in history, looking at the enormous manipulation of markets over 40 years. And we're just getting into the Maxwell piece of it, which is so fascinating. What role Robert Maxwell really played in the work of the KGB to infiltrate America and American economy, to take all that money out of the Soviets, Russia, and use it in America to create this ecosystem, which he could then detonate further down the line, or the Russians could then detonate further down the line to harm America's economy. And it seems that they did that with both Epstein and with Trump. And one of them is now the president of the United States. So it tells you a lot about where we're at and what Putin may have over Trump as well. That is the Trump Tyranny Tracker today. You can always subscribe to Olga's Trump Tyranny Tracker at trumptyrannytracker.substack.com. I'm going to write these things down on a note. I got a label maker. Tomorrow you'll see the label here.
I hope you actually put a label behind you. That way people
I was going to put it here. I was going to put it right
just...
here so you can see it right here. So on the microphone. So people will be
No,
able to see
but
it.
you need to put narrative.org on that map behind
Okay.
you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll do that as well. But in the meantime, I'll put narrative.org. I'll be back in 37 minutes or so with Dean Bundell, who's back from his vacation. Got lots to catch up on, plus the top 5 breaking news stories of the day. And Olga, we'll see you again tomorrow on the Trump Tyranny Tracker.
Yes, we will.
All right. Have a great afternoon. Oh, yes. We've got a session tomorrow.
We have our last session tomorrow for the authoritarianism 101. And tomorrow we will discuss about authoritarians, how they collaborate, and how this is a global thing, way past Russia, way past US. So sign
It's been
up.
such a great series, and people can sign up today still. You can sign up all the way until 7 o'clock tomorrow for our final session. We're going to bring another one in the fall. We're just not quite sure exactly what yet, or maybe we have ideas, but we haven't quite formulated them to present them to you. So that's going to come in the fall. Plus, we'll continue. I think we should continue having these little meets every once in a while with our amazing group of dedicated anti-authoritarian people who show up every week on these seminars. They're really terrific. So it'll be great to continue to have contact with everybody. Please sign in and sign up for the session tomorrow night. It starts at 8 p.m. That's the Trump Tyranny Tracker live for today. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and have a great afternoon, Olga.
Bye. You too. Bye.